Hey everyone, this is Brian at Dev Studios for the AW crew on Facebook.com. We are probably the only outlet left online that has any discussions, any kind of topics, anything to do with the AW 4416 and the variants that followed from it. Anyway, if you've been paying attention to some of the videos I've been posting up here over the periods of months and years and this and that, I've been kind of showing people how to use the AW, what you can do with it beyond the scope of what most people think about it, as well as just kind of how-to things, just the basic stuff, showcasing a little bit of mixing, taking songs that were done with poor recordings, say in a live venue, and making them sound actually fairly decent. All just in this box here. In the last few videos I've done, I think just 2 so far, I have actually been showing people how to master on the AW 4416 completely in the box. No other tools involved. And, the first video I showed how to just do a basic mastering while you're still working with your multi-track setup. So you have everything on your multi-track and you're mastering strictly on your mastering channel. That's a real easy setup and it can be done pretty easy. It's straightforward. The second video was about mastering a fully mixed song. It's more for having to mix and master, well, I should just say master several songs at once, say like you're doing for a full album or something like that. And in that case, we had our stereo mix loaded on the AW and we were running auxiliaries back into the inputs to use the inputs to set those up as multi-band compressors, mid-side processors, and so forth, and showing that with each one of these channels, you still have control over EQ and dynamics on every little thing, from your initial input where you got your recorded channel set to all your inputs that you have set up with the multi-band, the mid-side, all that stuff, and then back to your master channel. So you have lots of flexibility with how you can shape and tone your sound. This video is going to be pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This is going to be part 3 of mastering on the AW 4416. And this video is going to be focusing on using the same technique that we would use in mixing to help bring about body or whatever. Basically enhancing the sound to our recordings, to our mixes. It's not about making this thing, the mix itself, work from transferring from one media to another. It's just about trying to slightly enhance the sound to make that a little bit better. And what I'm talking about is using parallel processing on the mastering stage. Now, we use parallel processing a lot of the times with things like drum tracks, other percussions, I should say, for the full purpose of bringing out the body so that it's louder. You get more resonance and it makes it sound larger or more powerful without really affecting the transients. So you don't make that initial impact of the percussion sound oddly weird, okay? Well, you can use the same technique with mastering to try to enhance the sound a little bit. The example I'm going to use here is my song, Conflicts of Man, which I recorded a little over a year ago. Maybe even longer than that. I've completely forgotten by now. And one of our very own members, Tim Howitt, did the vocal performance for me, and he did an excellent job. I can't say enough about how he did this for me, because there's no freaking way I could have performed the vocals for this track. So Tim did an awesome, phenomenal job. But anyway, when I was mixing this track, I was pretty happy with it. But of course, I'm listening to it at fairly high volumes. I don't have it turned down to where it's just like, background noise or something. And I really liked it. I enjoyed how it was coming out. I enjoyed how it ended up coming out at the very end, and I uploaded it. I put it out there, distribute on the online on all the streaming platforms, and I was really happy with it. Then some time goes by and I come back later, and I'm talking like months later, not just a week or so. I'm talking months, and I'm listening to it and I'm going, yeah, it still has a pretty good balanced mix, but I really wish the guitars were just grittier sounding, dirty, so something just nasty about them. I really don't know how to explain it. Just really much more distorted than what they came out. And, it was weird because it's the same guitar effects processing I used on my track Turn of the Screw, which I was really happy with how the guitars came out sounding on that. It was the exact same guitar, the exact same effects setup, and I even did the same thing where I boosted the high and mid to make make the guitars even come out a little brighter, a little more kind of shrill and bitey. But doing that same thing on the digital platform just didn't yield the same results. It was much more mellow, and at least to the ears. And, the only difference was in Turn the Screw, it was recorded completely on analog with an analog EQ, analog recording medium, and Conflicts of Man was recorded completely digital with digital EQs, hard drives, pretty good AD converters within my system, because I didn't record it on the AW here. I actually recorded on a DAW. Just experimenting around with that and seeing, what can they do, what can they not do. Can I run it on an old computer I got here? And yeah, the DAW is working really great. I still prefer the hands-on approach with this guy though. So anyway, I have the mix set up here on channels 1 and 2, and I'm going to let you guys listen to a section of it now and just kind of hear what I'm talking about, okay? All right, so that is basically how this song sounds. And like I said, it doesn't sound bad, but I would really like it to be a little more bitey, just something more gritty about those guitars. So I know that if I can compress things harder, that'll make it kind of sound the way I want it. I know that if I turn the high mid frequencies up even more, that might help that kind of a thing also. But which is really going to be working out to be the best, in my opinion, after already messing around with it, I think it's going to be using parallel compression as well as some EQ. And I'm going to show you guys that here in a little bit, but right now, let's just go ahead and take a look at what would this sound like if I were to just be adjusting the EQ or dynamics controls on the actual mix itself. All right, so let's go ahead and back it up to where we started, and we'll start off just giving it some more high mid boost and see what happens.
Horror spread, we hid in
Now right now I'm just using some general settings. These are the basic settings on the AW. So our high mid is set at 4 kilohertz with a Q of 0.7, and I boosted it 6.5 dB. Now it made it louder, it made the guitars brighter, a little more shrill, stand out more, a little more to what I'm liking. It also brought the vocals up even higher, but I don't know if it really did anything I liked to the drums itself. And it's still not that gritty. Let me go and shut it off. I'm going to try to see what it sounds like just from compressing it harder, okay? Now, if you can see here, I've set the compressor up as a limiter. The attack is at 0 milliseconds, so it's instant, and the release is 6 milliseconds. Pretty darn quick. Got the threshold down to 11, and we really start hearing that compression bouncing off the top of the peaks and everything, causing a distorted sound. And in all honesty, I would really like to have that sound in the guitars, but I don't want them screwing up with everything else. And if you also noticed, my drums got squashed. I'm losing them as I'm putting more compression onto this. Spread through all the land, like blanket of death, rain down upon me. Let's go ahead and use the compressor with the EQ and see what happens. Tomorrow a new day will rise, and the people shall awake with fresh new open eyes. All right, so doing that way, the guitars came up, the vocals came out a lot louder, but it was burying my drums. I don't really like that. Maybe this was the thought process. Maybe by using parallel compression, I could actually keep my drums, bring out the guitars more, make them dirtier sounding, and keep the vocals sounding pretty good, and just get more of a balance of how I wanted things or to initially sound, or just what I want them to sound like now, right? So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and reset the EQ here. Now what we would do, you got two choices. You could do a similar thing like I showed you in previous video, video number 2, where you run auxiliary outs for your recorded channel back into your input boards. But you don't have to do it that way. For a simple situation like this, it's easiest just to go to your edit menu. And we're gonna make that heart shape you got here whole rather than broken. And back to your tracks. And you're gonna say copy tracks 1 and 2. And you're gonna copy them to like track 3. It'll just automatically double them up to track 3 and 4, and you hit execute, and that will give you your new set of tracks that'll come onto tracks 3 and 4, which I'll lock those together as well, which are right here. See? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off the original mix. I'm going to bring up the duplicated track. I might as well bring it up to the same level, right? It's at 0. I'm going to now compress the shit out of it so it's all dirty and gritty sounding and like before, and then I'm going to boost that EQ like I did, and we're going to just bring things up into the mix a little bit later. So let's get the bad stuff here working out. Real simple, all right? Now I'm going to turn the compression back off on the original mix, and we're going to just bring that back in. And then we're going to start pushing up the duplicated channels. See what happens. Rain down upon me. We locked our doors, kept out of sight. This horror spread, we hid in fright. The four horsemen ride, they come here to thee. All right, now see, I already hear a difference. It's not bringing out the vocals and the guitars so loud that they're kind of burying the snare on the drums, whatnot. And the drums aren't being squashed so much by the heavy compression that would have been used on the original mix. And I'm hearing that gritty, dirty distortion in the guitars now. It's not quite so mellow like originally was. We'll do ABs here, turning off the channels 3 and 4, so you guys can hopefully hear what I'm talking about. We'll start off with the actual mix, and then I'll bring them in. Now, doing that to my ears, wearing these headphones that I got on, it sounds like the vocals are only being brought out a little bit more with that adjustment in EQ. The guitars are being brought out quite a bit more with that adjustment, and that dirtiness is there that I want. I really would prefer to have that. Will be revived as they turn their gaze away from those who would keep them blind. So let's see what happens if I go ahead and start turning up the duplicated channels even louder. All right, well, I'm liking it so far, but maybe there's still more I can do with it. Like, what if I were to use high-pass filtering on the duplicated channel? Go to high-pass, go back to where we started, and let's just see what happens. Okay, well, so far I'm liking it. I'm still enjoying it there. What happens though? Maybe I want to have a little more kick to it, right? Or a little more bass now. And I don't want to emphasize too much. So I'm going to just go back to my original track and see what happens when I just start boosting the bass a little bit. Horror spread, we hid in fright. The four horsemen ride, they come Okay, so I'm liking that right now. I mean, at this point, I'd be completely happy with the way this sounded. It's at a point now where it's like we've talked about before, where you need to just kind of walk away from a mix and come back later and then listen to it and see, do I still like it or do I still not? But at the moment, I'm liking this. And I think with this track, I would leave this alone and set it up to re-release or just re-upload the master with this kind of setting to take place of what I've already put out there. So that being said, if you guys are interested, let's go ahead and listen to the whole song. And, if you're able to, give Tim Howitt here a shout out for great work. And I hope this has been interesting and something you guys can learn from. Like I said, using this technique with the parallel compression on a mastering job, any kind of parallel processing is more related to tonal enhancement, the sound quality, as opposed to just making the mix itself that you have be able to transfer and work properly, or at least as best as possible, to another medium. Say like uncompressed wave audio to MP3. Used to be tape to record player, vinyl record. You had to make a lot of changes or had to control a lot with those old masters from tapes to record to vinyl because of the limitations of what you can do with vinyl. Tape could far surpass, especially when it came to stereo, what could happen on a vinyl record. So anyway, this is Brian from F Studios for the AW crew. Hope you guys had a good time today watching this, being here with me, checking things out. Until again, next time, maybe I'll start showing everybody other things the AW can do that necessarily aren't mix related, but like features, like using the Q features if you don't know how to do that. And, just hopefully people can learn, because this machine, it's a 20-plus-year-old machine. It's got, I don't know, a lot of people could say it's dated because it doesn't have all the abilities that a DAW has, but this thing is still a very complex piece of machinery that a lot of people that come from a DAW environment can't wrap their heads around real easy. It's still the real deal. This was not a toy. So yeah, it takes some time getting used to if you do use it. But it makes great recordings, and you still can't put together a modern recording system that brand new that has all these features for less money than you could pick these up back in the day. Anyways, you guys have a good one. It's Brian F Studios for the AW crew. I'm out. This is Conflicts of Man featuring Tim Howitt.